Hello, and welcome to, apparently, judging by my voice, uh, Tales from a Thursday After Dark. But welcome to Wildsea session 0.66. We are going to be creating our characters today, and I will now turn you over to Fishy because my voice is on its way out. So, over to you, Fish.
So, yes, hello. As you may or may not know, depending on whether you've been here for the previous two sessions, our Wildsea session 0 is onto its third session now. This is partly just because Wildsea is such an interesting game. There are some games where you can just sit down and create some characters and get going. I remember on a number of games, actually creating characters and then playing the game, in the same session, no problem. But the more you vary from the stock idea, like sort of standard stock D&D, for example, the more you have to spend some time sorting things out. And Wildsea is radically different. So we have been through, in the first session, we covered things like what the Wildsea setting and game actually is, and we went through campaign themes and lines and veils and safety tools. In session 2, we created the ship, which still needs a name, people. I hope you're thinking about what you're going to call your ship, because it's bugging me not being able to write it down somewhere. And now we're getting on to the crew of that ship, beyond the ferrets. We already know about the ferrets. You've got them. They're running around the rigging. But now we need some... Yes, now we need some people to go with.
Under ferrets.
That's a ferret with a very small sword that extends into a slightly less small sword.
I would have thought it was more beyond the furry dome.
Oh. Don't get into furry doms. No, that came out wrong.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Saw it marching towards my mouth. Couldn't stop it.
Couldn't stop it. So I think we should start with a good discussion.
I feel that's as the actress.
It's a whole new crowd, new audience. Give it to us, Fish. That came out wrong as well.
Yes, that did.
Yes. It's very warm here in the UK, so.
I'm not feeling very well. I can tell, actually.
Oh, I know.
Because you're creating the crew of the ship, and that crew has to work together to work this ship, and they should be established to some extent. I'm working on the theory that your proving journey, your initial test run of the ship, so to speak, took place towards the end of last year, and that you have then wintered in Dickinson Spit, which is the location the port you're going to start out from. No.
And occasionally we have to deal with deal or no deal.
Well, whether you make a deal or no deal is entirely down to you. I do want each of you to come up with a hook, ideally, before we start play. So you want
I've been delinquent on that.
to take that name and run with it, then you're perfectly entitled to do so.
You know what?
However,
he could be an artifact dealer.
Yes. I'm sure there are lots of salvage auction houses.
So my thinking is that you've had an initial proving journey on your ship, put into the Spit over the winter, because nobody sails during the winter, and we will be starting the game essentially as spring rolls around and you leave to head out onto the Wildsea for your first true journey, actually seeking to do a thing. So this means that you have had at least one journey and the entirety of the winter to get to know each other, and therefore your characters will know who each other are, and hopefully will be a reasonable team for purposes of operating your ship. Towards which, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give each of you essentially a free aspect. If you look to your character sheet,
Mhm.
you will see that on the right-hand side there is a great long list of aspects, or space for a great long list of aspects. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And by my reckoning, you should be going to start, unfortunately, with 6 aspects. So
Where are the aspects,
This-
Fish?
Yes.
if you look at the character sheet, right-hand side,
Character sheet.
Mm-hmm.
the whole set of tracks with the word aspects written above the
No.
right-hand side.
Where?
I am. Oh, not in Fantasy Grounds, sir.
No, not in Fantasy
Oh.
Grounds. On your
Oh.
PDF character sheet, you don't have a
PDF.
character sheet in Fantasy
Okay.
Grounds.
Do actually.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe one day
I
I'll build one, but we haven't got one at the moment. We're just
Yeah.
using the PDF form
Okay.
It's
PDF.
okay. There
So
was a character sheet there with my name on it. I opened it.
Yeah, same.
Sorry.
that's the only place I can have something to attach a token to when something comes.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm trying to get Chrome up so that I can open it from Dropbox, and it's not
okay.
cooperating.
Not
So,
playing.
okay.
A long. Oh, right. Okay. So.
Can I?
Hang on, did I just miscount that? 1, 2.
Can I?
No, there are 7 aspects.
Yes, there are
of
7. Excellent. That's good.
Ah.
That will give you the 6 that you're going to get through character creation,
Yep.
and the 1 I'm going to give you.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
So
hang
the first one of these,
Hang
then,
on.
which will actually
Okay.
have
Okay.
I'm just gonna write it down. I can't find anything.
Okay. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You're okay.
So your first aspect is not. It's going to have an aspect value of 0. So it is literally just a placeholder to begin with.
Right.
And for now, I'm just calling it crewmate, but that may change depending on what you call your ship, because this aspect essentially represents the bond between the crew of the ship. Since the ties that bind is one of the major themes that we've decided on in this campaign, I've decided to use an aspect to represent that. This will not be going up on an individual basis. You will all earn ranks in that
Right.
aspect. At the same time, when you do something significant that bonds the crew closer together, when I feel that you have done that, I will give you all a rank in that aspect. And that can be used, like any other aspect, whenever narratively it seems appropriate.
Okay.
Okay, makes sense.
You okay, Molly?
Yeah, I'm just. I think I've got Chrome actually opening now.
Okay.
So, sorry.
Don't apologise. Chrome can take
No.
its time.
It is, yeah. You take your time. We're just going to talk about what the characters are going to be initially, so you've got plenty of time to get yourself sorted out while we discuss the needs of the crew and who's going to fill what needs. Remembering that we do have up to 2 other crew members
True.
in addition to the 3 of you that are here now. I think if we ever see all 5 crew members on the same stream, it will be a miracle, but that's not a problem. So long as we've got at least some of them, we can play.
Yeah.
So let's have a think about the ship that we've got and what roles that ship might require. And I think the first decision to my mind that needs to be made is to decide whether or not you have a captain. Is your ship a model of the democratic ideal, or is there a member of the crew who, when the ship hits the fan, knows that they can speak and people will listen?
He said it was
I
going to
warned you that
happen.
fan was coming. I told you it was going to happen.
In this case, it could. I mean, for all we know.
So is one
One's
of
a
you going
captain, but not
to be
me.
captain?
Can we make the captain an
Most of the
NPC?
time, you don't. Most of the time, the captain doesn't need to do anything. It's only really in times of emergency when there are times when drama strikes, when you just all need to react immediately and not be arguing about things. That's the only place where a captain really becomes important. Molly, you were saying something.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I thought you were saying something.
Well, I did, but it's now gone out of
You
my
asked
head.
if the captain could be an NPC.
Oh, okay.
Right.
This,
I would rather not an NPC captain
okay.
because it puts a lot of
Mm.
it puts a lot of pressure on me as
Fair
a
enough.
Firefly,
Okay.
and B, I think it takes a lot of agency away from you.
Okay.
Tell me not to suggest that we make Alexia captain and not.
Captain Lexi.
Possibly against my better judgment.
I think you should do it.
I think I might, because I'm also just thinking of the people we have, and since you are not putting your hand up for it,
I do tend to end up putting myself in as team leader an awful lot, and I'd rather, I don't know, be a slightly dodgy first mate maybe.
The other option that you have potentially is rather than having a set captain, you could just defer to whoever has the most relevant skills in a particular situation,
That's an option.
and just provided that you can understand who that person is, either listen to them or just have a rule on board the ship that when something starts to go wrong, whoever takes charge first, everybody just follows.
I like operating in that manner, but with a figurehead
Yeah,
captain.
I think there needs to be somebody for whom the buck stops.
Yeah, in a way, this is basically mirroring the Star Trek, the STA game, where Shard is playing the captain of the Tanara, but she's deferring to her senior crew,
Yeah.
the expert, and I think I'm okay doing something very similar. So you know what, let's not equivocate. I will put myself forward as captain. And see how that goes.
It's that, or frankly, we elect an executive officer
Yeah.
of the week.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified.
Well, Monty Python, there we go.
Yep, there we go. As Molly said in chat.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a proper stream. We've had the Monty Python reference. As soon as I saw Molly's comment come up in chat, I thought, yep, we're there now.
I'm also going to say that this is also partly guided. I know we're going to discuss roles and such, but because the post that I have in mind for my character doesn't seem to have a kind of fixed role in a way that a lot of the other posts do. And I think attaching a nominal executive or figurehead thing would kind of round out my character in a way that I hadn't got just by reading the post.
That sounds useful.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
So just thinking in terms of not specific posts, but general roles that people might need to fill on the ship. You might, for example, need a quartermaster. I know you're not specifically a trade vessel, but you do have space for cargo, and you have salvage capability. So somebody whose role it is to deal with managing those, whatever is on board, possibly the same person, possibly a different person, for purposes of then dealing with people in port when you get there. For taking on new cargo, unloading existing cargo, resupplying, that kind of stuff. That's a role that is possibly important.
Could also double up, or side by side with, because we decided that our nominal function is as an exploration ship, and in doing so, we will likely come across salvage that. So almost put it as like a collections officer. The person who deals with our salvage, and sorts it and determines what, do we sell this or
As someone who once worked in a museum, I love the idea of a collections officer. I just have this image of this scholarly character now in tweed.
So we don't have a captain, we have a curator.
Well, quite possibly, yeah.
Ooh, that's an interesting way of putting it.
Yes, isn't it,
Speaking
though?
as someone who's going to be playing a relic, I nearly said speaking as someone who is a relic.
Well, when we went through and we rated the themes numerically to work out what we were going to have, the Ties That Bind came out on top, but only by 1 point, and the three behind it all equal 1 point behind the Ties That Bind includes Uncovering the Past. So yeah, having curator as that title rather than captain would in fact work perfectly well. Yeah.
Show of hands, because I'm going with that.
I like that. I like that concept.
Curator instead of captain, Molly. How do you feel about that?
Oh, that's fine. I was just wondering, shower fans?
Show of hands.
Oh, show of hands. Okay, I'm sorry. I was just confused.
I'm sorry. My fault.
No. It's my brain. Auditory processing. Okay. Show. Yes. Very sounds good. Thank you.
Right. So even if the others object, we've got a majority on that care. Apologies to chat. I'm not feeling terribly well.
No.
Right. So I have made a note of that so that I won't forget it.
Okay.
Okay. Because you are an exploration vessel, I would suggest that actually looking at posts rather than just roles on the ship. I honestly think that this ship probably will need a navigator, won't it? Primarily in terms of as a role, but also as a post. There is a navigator post, and that seems like one that might just be important on the ship. You putting your hand up because you want to be navigator? Okay, that's just because you want to be able to control where the ship goes. That's all. You just want to be in charge by default. No matter where the curator tells you to go, you can navigate it anywhere and say, "Oh dear, I must have made a mistake."
It's a shortcut, mate.
Yeah.
No, I don't go south of the spit after 9 p.m.
Look, have you ever tried to argue with the tree?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if the knowledge is an aspect in this, but if it isn't, I think you may need to invent it.
What worries me is this is the second time in 2 days I've come up with an aggressively estuary accent for a character. I don't have an estuary accent.
No, you don't.
But apparently this does. Apparently the Thames estuary exists somewhere as a spit.
Well, I think if you didn't already have one, I think you may now have an idea for a character name. I think you could just call your character Thames.
I was going to go with Goodwin.
That's another possibility, yeah.
I was thinking Goodwin would work.
Yeah, it would indeed.
Which, by the way, needs to be a void. If this is our world, the Goodwin Sands definitely needs to be a void.
There are 3 rifts on the reach map that I've drawn up, and only one of them has a name. As yet, I don't even know which one that belongs to. There is one rift name out there. But Goodwin Rift could easily be a second one. In which case, yeah, I'm going to add that now to the reach location.
Many vessels.
Many vessels.
Hey, you want collaborative world building? We are it.
Just accidentally clicked past place. That's better. Goodwin Rift is a place. I'll put a description and put it at a later date. But now it exists in fantasy realms as a part of the world. There we go. So we have a captain. We have a navigator. What other roles do we think that this pathfinding vessel will need? Possibly some form of researcher, possibly more than one form of researcher. In fact, maybe one for gathering hints and clues as to where to go, and one or more for actually studying what you find when you get there, whether that be Indiana Jones style, delving into it and grabbing the idols, or a little bit more Star Trek, standing back and observing.
We'll probably end up all with the notion that we've got. If our navigator isn't necessarily our chief cartographer as well, like head of the maps, or person in charge of maps, person in charge of the salvage, person in charge of leading the team to leading the away team, as it were. So the Corsair type.
I don't want to imply that there's any kind of typecasting going on, but Molia, how would you feel about being your research archaeologist type person?
I would be up for that, certainly. That would be.
I mean, would you like that role over, say, the role as Fishy described of the person who goes out hunting for clues and such in ports?
I think
maybe do a bit of both.
Bit of both, but I think staying indoors is probably my preference. Slightly safer sometimes.
Stay inside with the unhatched Leviathan.
Yes.
Eating your dreams.
Yeah. Hey, the evil
Yeah.
Continuing to try and figure out what is the gestation period of a Leviathan egg.
Long-term project.
Yes.
No,
eventually that project will come to an end. It's just whether you figure it out before that happens.
God, I've got visions, Molly, of your character in the interest of research, feeding off-duty crew members wacky mushrooms in order to determine whether their dreams
and
have a greater effect as fuel.
Starting off,
we're getting a bit more into. Sorry, you were saying.
Oh, sorry. Just starting out with spicy food late at night, but
yes.
Yeah.
And then progressing.
Cheese before bed.
Okay.
We're getting more away from archaeology and more into science on that.
Well, it overlaps.
Archaeology is science.
Science,
yeah.
Nothing to actually hurt anyone, but they do the wilder dreams make the ship go faster?
Does it upset the unhatched egg? I mean, what happens? I mean, does that lead to additional turbulence?
Nightmares.
There's work done studying this in the other direction as well. I mean, if, for example, if a crew member is asleep while the ship is fleeing, will they have dreams of being chased?
I just wondered, would nightmares equate to scream if you want to go faster?
Ooh.
Good, yeah.
Oh.
Sorry. That is a weird crew.
Now we're slightly in a position here where we're almost making decisions for the other two players.
Okay.
Because we're limiting what roles there are left for them. But I think if we work out what roles are suitable for the ship, then that at least gives them the same help that we've got here in terms of coming up with ideas for the characters. So we already know that our ship crew consists of a navigator. We have a navigator. We know that we have got we'll just use the term researcher to be going on with, because it's a broad research, and there's an awful lot encompassed with it.
I guess we'll end up having a lot of notionally, researcher can cover multiple players. If we want,
different people can have different specialities. For example, in that there might be one who knows about the plants and another who knows about the ruins, and etc. etc. one who's particularly good on the arcanautic side of things, which is appropriate, particularly for this vessel because it's arcanautically powered.
True, yes. We run on magic.
If I was tempted by
It's magic. The word magic is not used in Wildsea. It's arcanautics. In character, you would not use the word magic. You've never even heard the word magic in character.
What makes you think I was talking in character? I was merely thinking in case.
I just wanted to make that clear.
No, I was merely thinking in terms of people who possibly didn't see the ship creation. In which case, you really should. It's the previous one on this VOD.
So I'm hoping that after this session, provided that she ever gets time from her busy schedule, that will edit the 3 sessions down to just the important parts, because we do a lot of talking around the subject.
Yeah. Okay.
So what other roles? I think possibly is there room for a ship security role, and certainly an engineer, obviously. Yes.
Chief engineer is definitely something we would want. I mean, nice if it is a player, but so then that person in charge of security stroke lead the teams who need to go off ship. The ones who need
ship security and leading away teams, as you.
Defense.
It seems like a good fit for the same character, don't they?
Yeah.
Descending into the canopy and things like. But also, leading ship defense as and when we come under fire.
Could I suggest that if there is a ship's engineer role, then that might be a good one for like Jazz, who may not be in every session, because the job can be occupied quite reasonably.
It can be assumed that they're busy looking after the ship during whatever action is going on elsewhere. Yes.
I'm not dictating. Is just a suggestion.
If Jazz is comfortable with that role, then that would be one that would make for as you say, a good explanation for why they're not there in other, or not active in others.
We need to get Tilly a sailor suit.
Oh my God, yes. I do have it. I don't know if she would wear the hat.
The other role, actually, that would give the same sort of reasoning for Jazz, same sort of excuse, would actually be the idea that we came up with earlier of somebody who is actually fishing out the clues, the leads as to where you're going, who may well be on a spit or in some settlement at any given time doing that research and not actually on board.
Scout.
And then you pick them up and you return doing that.
But dipping briefly into Babylon 5 universe, the way Galen quite often wandered off on his own and came back with information in Crusade.
Slightly offbeat and potentially connected to like the logistics role that we had mentioned earlier. Ship's cook.
Yeah, I have actually been looking at some of the official posts for Steep or Char as the cook or the brewmaster.
Yeah.
Just sounds fun. Not really great for adventuring necessarily.
I mean, if you're the brewmaster, you're the person who also creates potions or solvents and things like that.
We're back feeding the crew the wacky back.
Again, expanding this out to a slightly broader church, just in terms of general roles on the ship, I've noted that down as provisioner.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that that could cover ship's cook, could also cover that aspect of the quartermaster's job in actually making sure that there are suitable provisions on board. It could even be stretched into providing for things like ammunition for any weapons or potions that are needed, etc. fabrication would come more under the engineer's role, I would have thought. But
like you said, I think there's going to be bleeding between different roles.
None of these are hard and fast. These are general roles that the ship needs. The same character can fill multiple of these roles, and at the same time, multiple characters can fill one role, provided you've got a crew that will work. So I've put down fabricator as well on our list, just so that we can sort of lay this out as things that the ship might need, and then the things that the ship has already got in Discord for the other players to see when deciding on their characters. We already have a curator role, that's already covered. What else might we need? It's not a setup that needs really a second in command, because that's not the way the ship works. That executive officer would largely be there to make sure that the rest of the crew actually carry out the captain's orders, and that's not the way this ship is working. So that's not really a necessary thing. Just out of interest, the sort of security role that we discussed earlier on, I've noted down as expeditions, and then in brackets and security.
Sounds good.
Seems like the primary function is probably expeditions, and they're also responsible for the security of the vessel.
That sounds good.
The engineer is obviously responsible for maintenance of the vessel, so with that's covered. I haven't got a quartermaster listed. I don't know whether we want a quartermaster role, or because trade is not a major function, whether we're particularly bothered by that.
Could that come under the same banner as provisioner?
Yes, that's his. If it's a minor role on the ship because you're interested in carrying out trading, then it is something that can be done by the provisioner. If you were a trading vessel, it would have to be a separate role itself. So if you're not, then we don't need to have that.
Yeah,
I'm thinking that we could probably roll those into one role.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have, for someone to know pretty much whether we have X on board or if we're running low on Y.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely some of the more general roles that don't require specialist ability and things like that. I could the curator could fill in for at least at the administrative level.
Absolutely.
So I think we might have actually got a good enough idea to start looking at who's filling these.
Sounds good to me.
Start actually creating some characters. So we're using quick start character creation, which in the Spectra freebie version of the can be found on page 67. And that's identical to page 99 of the full rule book, which is where these start in that book. The rules are on the same page for freeform characters. I don't think we really need to be worrying about freeform characters, partly because one of the advantages of the quick start characters is that they guide you through, and it helps you to get past this just massive options that the game has. There's so many different characters you could create, and it can be overwhelming. But with quick start characters, you only need to make a few initial decisions, essentially 3, which is a bloodline, an origin, and a post. And then that narrows down the choices. From that point onwards, you have fewer options, so it makes life much easier. Traditionally, as per the rulebook, these are done in the order bloodline, origin, post, but there's no real reason why they need to be. So whatever order makes more sense if you're starting to get a feel for what your character is going to be. I know that you already know what your bloodline is. You've had that
Yeah.
down for a while, that you wanted to be an ironbound.
Yeah.
And we now know that you're an ironbound navigator.
Yeah.
So there's only the origin left to decide there, and then we can get onto the specifics for you.
I think I probably used to be the helm of someone else's ship.
I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now I'm designing the character in my head. Great. Wish I could draw reliably.
I think
Oh.
filling in characters based on what roles we've decided to fit would seem to lead towards picking the post first and then deciding a bloodline and origin that will, play to the character that comes to mind as a result. So I'm tempted to say that there might be an argument to be made that Molly's character might want to consider being a surgeon, less because of the medical side of things in terms of fixing broken bones and so forth, because that kind of leads towards those interesting psychological questions that have been asked about the crew's dreams and where that goes. I could see the surgeon being one of the people who might be involved in looking for that. But then there's a mesmer post, and mesmers obviously are going to be interested in psychology, in the mind, and I could see a mesmer being quite useful for purposes of understanding the interaction between the crew and their dreams and the Leviathan that powers the ship. While I think Tempest was one of the posts that Chrono was initially considering. I don't know if you still are, but that would tie very nicely to the mechanism by which it's powering the ship.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I could see a Tempest and a Mesmer working in concert to fill the engineer role between them, understanding best, or part of the engineer role at least, the engineer role with regards to the engine itself, and then somebody else for hammering plates back onto the hull. There are still quite a lot of options available to us, even at this stage. Does anybody have a preference as to where they want to start with bloodline, origin, and post? I know.
Would you mind going through in order? As I think, if we're giving an example of how to actually create characters and stuff, we probably ought to do it in the way that the book specifies.
Okay.
And that's speaking as someone whose bloodline isn't in the crypt play.
No, that's a good point. I did provide you with the.
You did, yes. I'm just grabbing it now. I am just sorting that now. Yes.
So the bloodlines, then. Bloodlines are what Wildsea calls, what a lot of other games would term race or species. Bloodline is as good a word as any for that, because it is one of those phrases that...
heritage, culture.
You're never going to find one phrase that makes everybody happy, because none of them quite mean what a role-playing game wants it to mean. But unless you invent a new word, you're always going to have some spillover, either with people saying, no, that doesn't mean that, or somebody saying, that's a bad word. So in bloodline is as good an option as any.
What you are,
yes,
with all the vague nebularities that come with that.
So the bloodlines that we have available in Wildsea are. This is easier if I go to the page that actually lists them all rather than looking at them individually. So the Ardent. Ardents are the descendants of those humans that survived the explosive growth of the Wildsea. They are natural survivors watched over by ancestral spirits. Ectus, towering spine-studded cactoids whose deserts were eaten by the verdant sea. The Ectus are strong, resilient, and in tune with their natural surroundings. Gao, fungal humanoids set free from their old homes by this new world of rot and growth. The Gao are swift and spry, making the best of their freedom. Ironbound, Ship spirits with driftwood bodies out to sail the waves once more. The ironbound are naturally spiritual and sturdily built. Petra, humanity's less fortunate descendants, making their way up from the hidden mines and buried buildings. The Ketra are gelatinous, tech-savvy, and bioelectric, and they really remind me of... I'm trying to remember their name now. It's a creature from the Mistborn series, and the ones who are basically the intelligent version of Mistwraiths.
Yeah.
Do remind me of those. I can't help wondering whether, our author has read Mistborn. A lot of people have.
Awful lot of people have.
Then we have the Mothrin. The Mothrin are an insectile bloodline exploring the leafy sea after the collapse of their restrictive, tree-burdened culture. The Mothrin are short-lived and colourful, and as the name suggests, they are kind of like moth related. And then finally we have the Telecrae, who are not appearing in this game. They exist in this version of the Wildsea. They are out there, but they are behind a veil, so we don't have to go into the purposes of this.
Yeah.
The dance of the 8 veils.
Yes.
Yes.
Ouch.
Sorry.
So we already know that Trot's going to be playing an Ironbound. Chrono, you had a couple of...
Yeah, so I was tempted by... it was a toss-up between Ardent and Tyrant. And thank you very much for providing me with the Chiron details. I think... Sorry, Ketra. Why am I thinking Tyrant? Ketra.
I don't know. You were doing that before as well, but I knew you meant Ketra, and I didn't want to correct you particularly, partly because I wasn't sure whether I'd remembered it wrong.
Yeah, no, where did I get that from? Sorry, Ketra. Yeah.
The tentacle jobs.
Yes.
They're not tentacles so much as
a mantle, or they have a fluid.
It's a good word.
Yeah,
They're squishy.
Fluidic form.
They're
humanoid slugs in some ways. So.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going more towards
trying not to think that way.
I'm thinking more the cephalopodic than necessarily the arthropodic or non-arthropod.
One of the things that really do remind me of those creatures from Mistborn is that because their forms are malleable, many Ketra reinforce their malleable forms with self-made skeletons of salvaged driftwood or repurposed scrap metal. Now, it's not a huge spoiler because they're revealed in book 1, but in the Mistborn saga there are these creatures who can absorb they can use the skeleton of another creature to mimic that creature. They themselves are sort of like blobs, but they can become human form if they have a human skeleton, for example. And indeed, in that book, they can mimic them perfectly. But these ones don't do that, but the idea of adjusting your form essentially by building yourself a skeleton to exist around does feel quite familiar from that.
We are already using bones in the ship.
We are already using bones in the ship.
So it would be thematically appropriate.
I am going to go Ketra.
Okay. So while we wait for Molly, let's have a look at the Ketra and the Ironbound. I'll do the Ironbound first. We'll do them in the order presented, which is alphabetical.
I do not look like that, by the way.
No, you don't have to look like that. I don't know if you're showing this to the stream.
I was about to, yes.
Cool.
I've just popped up the main rule book.
So the way the book presents these is quite nice, I think. There's 2 pages for each bloodline. The first page consists of an illustrative, a sample illustration of a member of that bloodline, and a narrative breakdown. So each of them has a number of sections. Some of these are in common and some of them are not. There's a questions to consider section and an alternate presentations section, which appears on all of these. Questions to consider is things to ask yourself if you're creating a character with this bloodline. So for the Ironbound, for example, it suggests that you have to consider, are you a rescued construct or a self-organized collection of wreckage? Are you perhaps something in between the two? Are you a soul first and foremost, a ghost in a shell, or is your body just as much a part of you as your soul? I get the feeling in your case, Strutt, that probably it is, the body is as much a part.
I was wondering.
Seem to be identifying very tightly with the ship that you once were.
What I was wondering about, Fish, was embodying, basically going the Harryhausen route from, I believe it's Golden Voyage of Sinbad, and going with the animated. No, not the Minotaur. That was Eye of the Tiger.
That was Eye of the Tiger, was it?
I was thinking the figurehead from the
animated ship Prowl.
The animated figurehead, yeah.
Yes, whichever goddess it was that.
Yeah. No, that was Jason and the Argonauts, Fish.
And that was Jason the Argonauts, of course. Yes.
There was.
I apologise for not knowing my Harryhausen anything well enough.
In Golden Voyage, there is the figurehead of Sinbad's ship is animated, breaks away, and is basically a animated wooden statue, and has a fight, obviously. Okay. But the whole back is basically just splintered wood from where she was.
I remember that image. Yeah. Obviously, need to rewatch that film.
Yes. Oh, okay. I apologise. Yes, I apologise. I am a bit of a Harryhausen nut. So.
Nothing wrong with that.
But that image, ever since I discovered Ironbound was a thing, that image has been in my head.
In your head.
And I like the idea that that's the focus of the ship, that she was. And that's the bit that survived, and therefore she embodies that as the spirit of the ship.
And the third question that is suggested for Ironbounds is, how much of your previous existence do you remember? Your travels, your experiences, the laughter and chatter of the crew you served with. Now, this is something that, again, we have discussed already to some extent.
Yeah.
That you have this goal of locating the rest of your fleet, that you weren't just associated with a single ship, but that ship was part of the fleet. And you have got memories of that fleet and wants to know what happened to them, and if possible rediscover any that still exist.
Yes, but I've got gaps.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that would be too easy.
Far too easy, yes. Now, Molly.
Yes.
Has any of the bloodlines managed to snag your affection as yet?
The Gull or the Mothrin. Assuming that Mothrin, being not explicitly Mothri, would be acceptable and tolerable. If not, then definitely Gull.
The alternate presentations listed under Mothrin, not listed, it's just a little paragraph.
Yeah.
Because if you hew close to the original concept, then the Mothrin aspects work just as well for butterfly or dragonfly-inspired humanoids. To diverge more without being completely dissimilar to the theme, a bat or bird-inspired presentation could work equally well.
And
the Mothrin Sorry, carry on.
Oh, sorry.
From my perspective, because obviously, I mean, you're pitching it obviously more towards me because I have entomophobia. I think if you wanted to be, I'm fine with Mothrin as described, provided there isn't an over fixation on the insectile. The bug-like nature of that. Obviously, a bat or something like that presentation is a lot more, in inverted commas, acceptable. But I don't want to limit. If the bug nature of it is what appeals to you, I don't want to push that off the table. Just as long as you're not, overly descriptive of those features.
The decorative wings are kind of what...
The wings are the important on a Mothrin, I think, really, aren't
they? And that's something that could be handled with a bat aspect or a bird aspect as well. Sorry.
Like I don't mind you being that. It's just a case of so long as you're not overly descriptive in emphasizing how insectile it is.
We can downplay those elements. They are humanoids anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and the illustration only shows
furry humanoids with moth or butterfly wings. You could downplay the insect elements of that quite easily.
I mean, I'm not going to put it up, but I've got the illustration here. And the illustration does have quite spindly legs, for example, which are quite insectoid. However, the arms aren't. They are more akin to just a thin human. So you could probably have someone who basically is sort of, aside from the wings and a certain fluffiness on the head with the big eyes, you could probably adjust.
Yeah, I have played in games where moth characters have existed before, and it has been fine.
Okay. Yeah, I would not be. I mean, if I went that direction, I would not be emphasizing the insectoid bits. It would basically be, I have wings. I have a short lifespan.
Yeah.
I can actually basically go back into a cocoon or something like that and melt myself down and be reborn, which is also kind of appealing.
Are you
Well, repupation. That's it's basically like a regeneration, like a Time Lord. You share some memories, but the personality may be slightly different. Which that's one of the things that would be awesome. And also, if for some reason, say I'm traveling like for a meeting, a work conference or something, then I'm just regenerating. Don't mind me. But I want everyone to be comfortable. The fungus is the fungus also a comfy sort of thing. Is just kind of appealing. Although then we get into spores, allergies, trypophobia. So that I may have chosen problematic.
I like the idea of you playing a Mothrin. I'm not pushing you. I can see it working.
I see no reason why the Mothrin wouldn't work. There are certain choices when creating a Mothrin character that would probably not work. So you would perhaps have less freedom in creating the character than you would with a different bloodline. But even some of those, though, in fact, could be represented, given a new name and description and the same mechanical effect, and not be a problem. But I think from what Chrono has said and from my reading of the Mothrin bloodline, I don't really see that it would be a particular problem in play.
Okay. Well, I may kind of go for that then, if that's with the caveat that I'm not I'm not going to be graphically mothy. It's all PG moth or G rated.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so
rated 12
because we're using the quick start character rules on this. Each bloodline presents you with a number of choices, which will be the start of your character. So if you look on your character sheet, you will see that there are some edges listed up at the top. Edges are a thing you either have or you don't. They're not rated, like, say, the skills. And they are, if I just run through them quickly, and actually I've got them here. It's going to be easier if I find them on my my printout. edges are grace, which represents elegance, precision, and agility. Iron, force, determination, and willpower. Instinct is sense, intuition, and reaction. Sharps, logic, wit, and planning. Teeth, savagery, passion, and destruction. Tides, exploration, learning, and lore. And veils, shadows, ciphers, and secrecy. Each bloodline will give you a choice of 3 of those edges to choose between. So, for example, for the Ironbound, Drat can pick either iron, teeth, or tides.
Yeah.
And as I say, these are just so you have them or you don't. So you just tick on the character sheet that you've got, whichever
Tides.
one. For the Ketra, this is iron, sharps, or veils. And for the Mothrin, it's grace, tides, or veils.
I suspect I'll take
So
mine.
you will have more than one of these because each element of your character will give you a choice of 3 edges. So you'll have one from Bloodlines, one from Origin, and one from Post.
Excellent.
This actually,
I'm going with tides as
yeah,
well.
this actually works because if we're bound by a general love and affinity for exploration, that's a good start for forming a crew.
It's a good Tides there's definitely a good edge to have if you're going to be crew on a Pathfinder vessel.
Yeah.
Yes. So the next thing is skills and languages. There are a number of skills and languages in the game, and these are rated. So you will have a number of points. You can pick one more than once to get more than 1 point in it, but you cannot put more than 3 into a skill or language during character creation.
Okay.
So you will have 5 from your bloodline. Again, these are listed in the quick start kit. So for the Ironbound, you have 5 points to split between brace, break, delve, hack, rattle, scavenge, and wave walk. I think I probably ought to go through what skills do, shouldn't I?
I've noticed
Because they are very much named in keeping with the setting. This is what people would think of in terms of the setting. So, brace. The brace skill is used for the way they've described them is they've basically just given for in the rules breakdown, which is what I'm using here, they've just given sort of short, snappy, what is this? So brace, defend, determination, and immobility. Brace, as you might expect, is for bracing yourself against whatever is coming in. Break is the opposite of brace, really. If someone tries to break you, you need to brace. Break, smash, demolish. The way these work in game, whenever you attempt to do something, you form a die pool, essentially. And for that die pool, you will get, if you have an edge that applies, you get a d6 for that. If you have a skill or language that applies, you get up to 3d6 from that. And then if you have some advantage, such as a resource or assistance or an environmental aid, you can get up to 2d6 from that. And then you roll those dice to determine what you're doing. So obviously, whenever you do anything, rather than saying, I would like to use the break skill, it tends to be more, I'm going to break this. And then it's fairly obvious that the skill you're going to be using there is break. But it will be up to me as Firefly to determine what skill or language you can apply. But up to you, if you think that there's one I haven't allowed that would apply, to persuade me otherwise. The next skill...
Can I just say, by the way, I really like, on the character sheet, it tells you what to roll for edges, skills, and advantages.
Very nicely put together.
I like that so much.
The little how to play section at the top that just gives you, what your die roll is going to be made up of, and also how the results work. So you're not trying to remember, oh, hang on, is it 5 and 6 or just 6 for a triumph? Well, it's right there on the character sheet in front of you. It's 6 for triumph, or 5 or 4 for conflict, 1, 2, or 3 for disaster, and even reminds you that there's a twist if you roll doubles. So that is really nice. Makes the game very easy to play. Concoct is chemical reactions, essence and treasure extraction, Concoct is what might probably be called alchemy in a game like D&D.
Is that different from cook?
Cook covers, according to this, spices, sustenance, meats, fruit, and heat.
Right, concoct is not in the spectra.
Is it not in the? Right. Okay.
So I wonder if none of the roles or none of the origins, bloodlines, or posts in the free thing offer concoct as they think, because the Ketra does offer concoct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not in the free book. So yeah, it's entirely possible that is the way that works. That they've taken out the things that you can't get with what's in there.
Oh, sorry. Could you repeat what concoct does then, please?
Chemical reactions, essence or Kreza extraction. So that would be, I suppose, if cook is going to be the stuff that you would actually concoct and imbibe, concoct is going to be the stuff that you probably don't want to imbibe, but that you would mix up and use somewhere else.
Yeah, you see, that's interesting, because at least in the free, I don't know if it got amended for the actual release. The description of cook in the Spectra says skill of spices and speculation, use cook to prepare meals, brew herbal drinks or alcohol, and concoct unusual chemical solutions.
Interesting.
Right, in the full rule book, a skill of spices and speculations, meats and fruits and heat, use cook to prepare meals, brew herbal drinks or alcohol, and render specimens to their most valuable parts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if it got changed and added
to collect or distill chemicals. It does sound like as I recall, Spectra was not released until quite a while after the full game was out. So I think what they might have done is actually just combine the two skills,
right? Yeah,
for the free version, just to simplify things a little bit.
Yeah, because under cook it says concocting and catalyzing unstable chemicals. So they probably combined
catalyzing unstable alchemical elements is under concoct here, and no sign of it under cook. So yeah, I think they have just merged those two skills to simplify the system. So then we get Delve, a skill of dust, remnants, and forgotten ways. Use Delve to explore the ruins of the old world, traversing barriers and unearthing secrets. Flourish is a skill of showmanship, rhythm, and performance, used to enchant, impress, or dazzle those around you, worming your way into their heart with words and deeds. Obviously, I'm going through all of the skills here, not just the ones that are available to you. And it doesn't mean that you can't come back afterwards and say, I can't remember what such a skill does. Feel free if you want a reminder. But I'm just going to run through them all quickly now. Hack is used to carve a path right through the wilderness of the rustling waves, imposing order on chaotic growth. So that is equally applicable for cutting through undergrowth or cutting through things. Things that might be wanting to eat you. So it is also used in combat.
Okay.
Harvest is used to gather fruits, flowers, and other edibles from the wild waves and to understand the flow and cycles of nature. Hunt is used to turn the tables on the sea's many predators and pick the best of their trophies. I think, also used potentially for long-range combat, because it covers marksmanship. Outwit. Use outwit to avoid threats or to move them right to where you want them. Might be moving quickly and quietly, surprising opponents before melting away again, infiltrating spaces that are definitely off limits. So it's very much the D&D rogue. It's that combination of stealth and combat in a single thing, but it's not the skill that you use to actually attack someone, but certainly to gain advantage of an attack by maneuvering for position, but also just for not fighting them at all by slipping past them. Rattle, a skill of mending, maintenance, and adaptation. Use rattle to weave oddments and salvage into workable equipment in a pinch, or to tinker with gear and objects. So that's your engineering side of things.
Your MacGyver-y.
Yeah.
Yeah, MacGyvering very much. Scavenge, a skill of searching, spit and polish. Use scavenge to root out valuable salvage from dross to pick treasure from trash. Scavenge being something that is very useful in this game. Sense is your perception skill, essentially. I can give you the description given in the book, but it's easy enough just to say, yeah, that's perception. Study, a skill of meticulous recording and focused investigation. You study to learn the import of details others would miss, making connections and sorting information. So, combination of library use and information gathering. Not so much information gathering. It's the interpretation more than the obtaining for study. Sway is persuasion, a skill of convincing, arguing, and capitulating with aplomb, used to convince others to act or hold back from acting or to change hearts and minds to suit your purposes. Tend is healing. Use tend to heal injuries to the crew, nurture plants, and soothe the minds of both beasts and your fellow crewmates. So it's first aid, psychotherapy, and animal husbandry all in one skill, apparently. Not to mention horticulture. Nurturing plants was in there.
Oh, God.
Vault. Anything that you might be looking after comes under tend. Vault. A skill of dizzying heights and impressive acrobatics. Use vault to climb, leap, and tumble your way through an environment at speed. So that's vault as in jump, rather than vault as in lock things away.
Okay.
Wave walk, a skill of seared souls, brachiation, and animalistic elegance. Use wave walk to personally navigate the wilds without the use of a ship, despite the danger. It is very dangerous, but that is the equivalent, essentially, of swimming in this game.
Ah, okay, yeah.
But it is indeed very dangerous, and you don't want to do it for any distance at all, because a lot of the foliage is essentially acidic. It's caustic.
I'm thinking I might have to,
So that's a quick rundown on what these all
Did you say
do.
rattle was very much the MacGyvering?
Rattle.
Sorry,
Yeah.
rattle. Yeah.
Okay.
There are also a number of languages listed for each of your origins, each of your bloodlines in the quick start kit, and those come out of those same 5 points. Your 5 points are split between the skills and the languages. The languages are sort of predefined, which is nice because it means I don't have to invent some. And the way languages work, if you have one rank in a language, then you speak a smattering of that language. 2 is a firm knowledge, and 3 is fluency. So you'd ideally, by the end of character creation, want 3 in whatever language was your primary language, unless you have a reason to have your character maybe not be particularly well spoken. I'm fairly certain that half the people I work with don't have in English, but
So the common tongue, as it were, is low sour.
low sour. Yes, indeed. It's a Mongol tongue that is the most commonly spoken thing across.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you would actively get, like, for example, 3 dots in low sour, because I don't think any of the things actually give that as.
Don't get it as an origin one.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think that is an option at all.
What's
I mean, this is the first
Rackers
time
bit?
we've
Fish?
Rackerspits, rapid patter of hunters and leviathaneers.
Okay.
So, without actually looking up the full description of it, I would say this is a language intended to impart information, perhaps with limited subjects, but intended to impart information quickly and accurately.
White hole spitting matter.
Yes. White hole spewing time. Engines dead, advice, please.
Yeah.
So I'm also guessing that if you if you pick a skill from like your origin and then pick the same skill from your bloodline, or if you pick one from your bloodline and you pick the same in your origin, that puts you up to 2 dots.
Yes, you can choose a skill or language more than once at each stage.
Sure.
And each time you choose it, you get another point in it. But you can't have more than 3 ranks to start with.
Yeah.
I take it you get all the languages listed. It doesn't say choose.
No, it is skills and languages. You have 5 to split, just points to split between the skills and languages.
Yeah.
So it's 5 between all of those.
Bugger.
Yeah. I get to choose 5, and I. So.
What's Old Hand?
Old Hand is a sign language.
Okay.
Basically, BSL for Wildsea.
Okay, that's fair.
Whereas signalling is essentially semaphore.
Yeah. Okay, that's reasonable. Let's do that. And
Yeah, I have a feeling that my character isn't actually going to have a huge number of ranks in anything. Because my skills and languages are all over the place for the things I have got my eye on. But we will see. If this doesn't work out in this, I may scrap and redo once I have a better handle.
Well, the rules do say never be afraid to make one-to-one switches as you put together your character. One skill for another, a suggested aspect for another that catches your eye. Perhaps none of the resources offered by a kit suit you. In that case, make up a few of your own, or take one from the resource lists found elsewhere. So,
if you're all right, for us to use a
good suggestions, but you're welcome to swap them around.
Cool. Okay, then. What I might do is I might go through and then see what I get, and then make a few switches.
And then, if you want to change a few points around afterwards, you are welcome to do so.
Cool.
The choices given in the quick start, the options given in the quick start kits are very thematic and not necessarily practical. So if you need to swap them out for something more practical, then by all means do so.
Yeah, I will likely need to do that. But we will see.
I mean, just purely on Bloodline, before we move on to anything else, for example, it's entirely possible for our crew to need to speak to one another entirely in semaphore. Because I mean, you do have 2 languages in common based on bloodlines, but they're signalling and Rakaspit.
I haven't taken any
it's
yet.
Either Hunt's code or semaphore. They're the only ways you can talk to each other at the moment.
Neither of which I have plumbed for. I've gone for Chthonic on my thing. However, I do note, and this is probably something we want to clarify. We may want to clarify between the free and the core book. There is a bit on page 55 of the Spectra, which says that all characters start with a free fluency and low sour.
Yes, that is on page 87.
Also in.
It's on page 87 in the print.
Okay, cool. In which case we could probably mark
it is there. I just missed it. Thank you for pointing that out.
No, I literally just saw it.
Thanks. Is that what
in that case, low sour is clearly not going to be appearing in the language list for any of these options then, because you've already got that one.
Yeah.
These are what else you speak.
Cool. So I guess we mark that as 3 dots then.
So you can put your 3 dots into low sour straight away.
Good.
Sounds like a type of Haribo.
It does. I may just at some point open up my blank copy of the form fillable character sheet, fill in those 3 dots and resave it, so it's already there at start on every character I create.
Idea, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Picture resources. Yeah.
Now, resources. Let's run through the 4 types of resource that are listed. Salvage. Salvage is exactly what it sounds like. It's stuff that has been salvaged from something and can be used during the course of the game, whether as an immediate use or as a component for making something else. Specimens is essentially the organic equivalent of salvage. If you have a fruit, that would be count as a specimen. Whispers are kind of memes with power. It is meme in the proper use of the word meme, not the modern internet use of the word meme, as ideas that survive by moving from mind to mind. And whispers can be used in game for a number of uses, such as adding something to the world or gaining an advantage in a particular situation. Whispers can be used, for example, the game system adds twists when you roll a double. Without rolling a double, you can still add a twist without even rolling any dice to a situation by choosing to use a whisper in that situation. You can add a twist related to that whisper. They are quite fascinating. They're almost like magic phrases, and they can be used once for whatever effect. There are 3 possible effects. You can not do them, but yeah, just the once, unless they have the echoing tag, in which case they can be used twice. So I haven't seen it said anywhere specifically in the rules, but that doesn't mean it's not there. I may just not have noticed it. But certainly, as far as I'm concerned, if you chose the same whisper twice, I would allow you to have an echoing version of that whisper, essentially. So, for example, the whisper listed in the Ironbound Quick Start Kit is Woken to Thought, which, depending on how it's used, could be something that applies to you, or it could be something that applies to something else. In theory, you could shout that to literally wake something to thought, and perhaps create another Ironbound with the from another member of your fleet, were the circumstances right. They are interesting things, whispers. Charts are exactly what they sound like, and charts enable you to do things like make safer journeys or add new locations to the world. The whole game is very narrative, so anything is used in a narrative sense, and quite often can be used to add to the narrative, including adding new things that weren't there. Another tag that can apply to whispers, by the way, is hungry. A hungry whisper, when used, will remove something from the world rather than adding something to the world.
Oh, that's comforting.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay. Yes, I've gone with Woken to Thought and a chart of an old tradeway. Because nothing else quite leapt out at me from my options for resources.
I chose Whispers Vibrant Riot, simply because that appeals, and Charts a Tapestry map.
No.
Yeah, so I've gone for Ceremonial Dynamite, Salvage, and a Faded Schematic for charts. So.
I want your salvage options.
Yeah.
Mine was saw prow teeth and defused shells.
Well, it was Ceremonial Dynamite or a driftwood core.
Mind you, diffused shells in this game could refer to either armory shells that have had their explosives removed, or shells of creatures that have been diffused that are prone to exploding at high altitude or something. And now we need to have crustaceans that explode at high altitude as a defense mechanism.
I would not think that is out of character for this setting.
It's not, is it? And now I'm just needing to put that in. Were you with us, Fish, when I said that? You're
Muted.
silent.
No. Oh, yes. Hello.
Hello, Fish. Can you hear us now?
No.
We can't hear you. It's okay. So at least we can tell him straight off.
True. Yes. I'm sorry, I just saw the Tollycat aspect of the Mothrin.
Yeah.
A domesticated feline-esque insect that sheds medicinally potent scale dust. Your entire crew has resistance against infections and disease.
Nice.
I could get a pet.
Yes.
Yeah, there are
Shop.
a lot of insectile companions that are.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we would be if
It's fine, Molly.
Yeah,
These are descriptive. It's not.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Basically, I would be thinking cat with antenna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh god, that's so 1980s anime. That's kind of Ulysses 31.
Mm.
Yes. Fish is now showing us muted.
Or old style, or stuff like Clamper.
Yes. Now I've got the music to Ulysses 31 stuck in my head.
Same.
Mm.
Yep.
I don't because I've never heard it.
Oh, I have the DVD.
Oh.
Because I'm that sad. Yes, science fiction, a French science fiction anime based on the voyages of Odysseus.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah.
fun.
It was definitely a wild ride for being shown in the 80s.
It was.
Wow.
It was interesting.
Part of it, like a kind of block of animation that came out around that time, which included things. Similar vein to Thundercats, etc.
Mysterious Cities of Gold.
Am I back?
Yes, you are.
Yes, yay!
Right. Yeah, I had to change to a different microphone in Wildsea and then back before it would talk to the microphone again. I don't know
Oh
why.
my gosh.
And yes, Dogtanion as well. Around the world with Willy Fogg.
Jason the Wheeled Warriors.
Yeah.
Which, dear Lord, that was not something you should actually be showing a kid.
Yeah, we dealt with Chorlton and the Wheelies.
Mm.
Little old lady.
Okay.
Right. We've been
I think you
keeping
have
us
to go a long way to stop Trapdoor.
So yes, we've got an element of the world we want to put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's what this is all about. What element of the world we want to put in?
There needs to be crustacea that, when elevated, that as a defense mechanism can explode. Possibly with flotation bladders inside their shells.
Basically,
Flotation, I hope.
Yes.
Flotation.
Okay. Oh, good. I heard flotation bladders. And I was.
Yeah, it's a subtly different thing. That was what I first heard. I thought, no, that's clearly not what you said.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I apologise. It's
Okay. No.
Yeah,
no.
crustacean grenades, effectively.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
We decided they exist now. This is because I had the words diffused shells as a possible salvage, and my brain went sideways.
That is entirely in keeping with Wildsea.
Exactly what you said.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
they are definitely going to be a thing.
Awesome.
What I might suggest, however, is that we put them in as a hook, essentially.
Okay.
That you have heard of a
Ah.
location where these things exist, and it's something that you can choose to investigate in game. Perhaps.
It's the
what I was trying to
Galapagos.
say when everything went horribly wrong on my sound
Right.
was that if you want to come back to resources, and not necessarily choose them now, you are welcome to pick them later when you've got a better idea of the settings. So
I think we have picked, but thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
I will note, just jumping a little bit ahead, when you are choosing your aspects, be aware that the boxes in the aspects thing on the character sheet are very small, and they don't expand.
Oh.
Yes.
They are character limited.
I noticed that with the Myers, because
so you might have to use a shorthand notation in those boxes and find some way of depicting it elsewhere. Or I guess use the detailed box to actually put the name of it.
Okay.
Probably aspects is where we should go now. I deliberately didn't go straight to aspects. They're not listed in the quick start kit, but you get 2 aspects from those listed for your bloodline. I deliberately didn't go straight to them because I wanted to get the edge skills and languages. Really, I wanted out of the way first before you consider what aspects you have, because aspects are, in D&D terms, aspects are feats. Essentially, they're things that you either have or don't have. Each of them is listed. It says how many points its track is worth on each of them, and each of them also lists what it is. It might be a trait, it might be a companion, or it might be gear. Those are fairly self-explanatory, I think. A trait is an aspect that is inherent to you. Gear is an item you own. And a companion is like the ferrets on your ship. It is a companion creature that is with you. And you get to pick 2 from those listed for your bloodline.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that does speak.
There are unfortunately too many good ones.
There are quite
difficult.
So, and this is where you basically start to customize like what your character where your character came from and what they do. So I've gone for scrap metal skeleton. The internal structures you've collected can store biovoltaic energy. Use task to create a resource scrap bone battery. Which I think is in keeping with definitely the idea I have for this character. The other one I've picked is Whispers in the Dark. While in a dimly lit or unlit area, mark to learn a secret from the darkness. Which I feel gives Fishy a good hand to do things with.
Oh, we like that.
You're not kidding about not having space, are you?
Yeah.
Do I take it that
I should probably. This is probably a good time for me to briefly mention the difference between marking a track and burning. When you mark a track, you just put a line through it, and marks are relatively simple to get rid of. So you mark a track as you use something, and then you can recover that later. You remove those marks. Okay. When you burn, you put an X in it, and burning is far more significant. So when a track is burned, it's out for a long time, or possibly even forever.
Okay. By the way, with Monument to Travel, whenever you gain a chart, mark to gain a related whisper as well.
Ooh.
That's nice. Yes, I can see
Ghost
especially
Heart.
as a navigator, because you will be theoretically using montage tasks to create charts, which would give you a whisper.
And Ghost Heart. You count as fluent when communicating with ghosts, spirits, and other ironbound, regardless of language.
Yes, that's nice. We like both of those.
Yeah, you frozen fish.
Oh.
I mean, frozen in a decently flattering position. It could be much, much worse.
Oh yes. My camera usually freezes when.
Looks okay at the moment.
That's better. That's back.
Yeah. Yes.
So the way these work on your character sheet, by the way, if you haven't already figured this out, there is a little box to the right of each track, which lets you put the track length in.
Okay.
There's an example aspect on the character sheet at the top. The first thing you'll see has got a. I actually deleted it, so I now can't remember. It's a rigid coat or something.
Yeah.
And that has got the length of it in the box on the right, and it's got, I believe, one element of the track marked as a demonstration of how it works. So if you've got a 4-track trait, for example, you wouldn't mark 4 boxes to show that. You would put 4
in the box to the right.
in the space to the right, in the box to the right, and then you would just put a slash or an X into each of the spaces to indicate when you're marking that track or burning that track.
Okay.
So that's 2 of you. Have you chosen your aspects, Maria?
I think so, yes. The first one was fairly easy. I used to know this, which is a 3-track trait. You can create you can treat a conflict as a triumph when rolling for action without a skill adding to your dice pool once per scene.
A scene. That's nice. That is nice.
Yeah.
So
that sounded useful.
Conflict, the mechanics usually, when you roll the dice, you use the highest value that you've rolled, and if it's a 6, that is a triumph. So you have just achieved exactly what you wanted to do. 4 or 5 is a conflict, which is that you've achieved what you're after, but at some cost, or not quite how you wanted. So in this instance, if you don't have an appropriate skill, obviously that's treating a result of 4 or 5 when rolled as a triumph, as a 6, but only once per scene. That is a really nice. I can understand why you would want to do that.
That sounds.
It doesn't specifically say in the description, but I am assuming that whenever you do that, you would also mark that track. Otherwise, that's really potent, powerful.
Yeah,
but,
true.
Usually, mostly when you use an aspect, you will mark that aspect. So I think it's fair to assume that that is intended for I used to know this.
Yes.
Removing marks from tracks like that is something that can be done during montage scenes as a
excellent
recovery task.
Good. And the other one I was thinking about was possibly elegant wings. Although most Mothran wings now serve as decoration, yours are uncommonly strong. You can glide with ease or mark for a short burst of elegant flight.
Oh, I like that. I like the gliding.
That is. So the gliding aspect of that, I would, in most, sometimes it'll just be you glide. Where relevant, I would treat the gliding as an advantage, so that would give you 1 or 2 extra dice depending on how useful gliding would be when attempting a task, an action that the wings can contribute to. And so you could actually mark it just to fly for a little bit. If even with gliding you can't get from A to B, mark it and off you go.
A short flight. So I'm thinking like I'm almost like a long jump where I might not quite be able to get over it, but I could actually glide or fly. Just for a smidge.
I think one way that could well come into play is that I would allow the wings to give you the gliding to give you advantage when attempting the jump, and if you still fail or if you get a conflict, then one of the possible options on that conflict would be that you instead mark the track, and you're not going to make it, so you start flying for that last section. Put in the extra bit of effort, tie yourself.
Awesome.
But it's the sort of thing that would be determined on a case-by-case basis as game.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
I love a safety net. That sounds wonderful.
Yes, that's definitely a good safety net to have.
Yeah, big time.
So after aspects, the next thing you're picking from your bloodline is a drive. Now, drives, everyone at sea has goals they want to achieve, dreams to chase, and secrets to uncover. These are your drives, the goals that keep your character going, and making progress on these drives can pull your character out of even their darkest moods. Whenever you achieve something that advances or satisfies one of your drives, you have a few options. You can gain a whisper relating to that drive. You can clear a mark of Maya. We'll get to Maya in a moment. You can gain a minor milestone. This game doesn't use experience, it uses milestones. So it's minor and major milestones. So when you advance your drive, you can gain a minor milestone, which is, then there are things you can do with milestones that are different parts of the rule. Or if you completely satisfied your drive, you gain a major milestone. But if you do, then that drive is then removed from your sheet and you pick a new one because you have fulfilled that drive, so it's no longer there anymore. The drive there actually reminds me a lot of the character and group goals in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition. That has a very similar mechanic. You earn experience points for advancing those goals, and it's a really nice way of letting the GM make the game a little bit more character motivated, because obviously the GM or Firefly is partly responsible for ensuring that you have opportunities to advance your drives. These, again, there are drives suggested for each bloodline, but as we've already said, you can sub things out if there's something else that feels particularly appropriate to your character.
Don't really like either of the drives that are listed there for me, so I will come up with something different.
Okay.
One of my drives potentially is rescue an abandoned ship. Would it be too long a drawn to exchange that for reunite my fleet or discover the fate of my fleet?
Fine. I am fine with either of those.
Okay.
I will let you choose which one you would like to work towards, but either of those is absolutely fine by me.
I'm going to choose a prefab one because solve baffling problems with style.
Oh, wow.
Sounds like that
The with style part is important, obviously.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
They are a social butterfly.
This is going to be such a fun campaign.
Fish, your camera has frozen again, but
My camera has frozen
again. Flattering image.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was possible, but there we go. Muting and re-revealing the camera seems to fix that. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, so Myers. The Wildsea takes its toll on those that sail it, bringing out more of their insecurities, phobias, and savage tendencies the longer they stray from port. These are your Myers, the things that drag you down. Every character has a set of 3 Myers chosen during character creation, and each of these Myers has a special 2-box track. The easy way to explain this where Drat is concerned is to say, basically, when you need to make a sand check, you're potentially marking Maya.
Fine.
There's a few examples given. You witnessed the death of a member of the undercrew, forced to eat or drink something beyond description to survive, see one of the horrors of the waves, the bad stuff, basically. And the way your Maya affects you is very much unique to you. So that's what the descriptive name element of the Maya will represent. When the first box is marked, it's essentially primarily narrative. Let hints of the condition bleed through into your role play. Perhaps you shy away from choices that would usually be easy, or bring the effects of the Maya into a description of a related action. If both boxes are marked, then it should very much be at the forefront of your character. That's when it's seriously hitting you. You may not be able to quell fears or vices, and the way you describe your actions to the other players should make it clear that your character is suffering. Mechanically, whenever you try to act in a way that contradicts a Maya, you automatically cut a number of dice equal to the amount of marks on that Maya track. Cutting is a mechanic whereby after you've rolled the dice, you remove that many dice, starting with the highest.
Oh, we don't like that, no.
So rather than rolling rather than rolling less, you roll the same number, but then remove the highest values.
Ow.
I actually kind of love that in a masochistic sort of way.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a very interesting system.
Yeah.
We toyed with something very similar, or parts of it is very similar in Ensemble. For anyone who does remember the RQ
Yeah.
system that I was part of the design team for.
Yes. So
One
that
of the things I
really
like
encourages you
about
to act.
cutting after the roll is that you can really feel the effect that it is having on
Yeah.
your character. It's one thing saying, "Oh, I would have rolled an extra die." It's another thing saying that 6 would have got me a triumph if it wasn't for the cut.
Yeah.
You really can feel whatever it is that is causing that cut, such as Maya.
Yeah.
And that is extremely relatable in real life as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Maya can be removed by a number of things, but the primary obvious one is playing to your drives, because whenever you advance a drive, one of the options you get to pick from is to remove a point of Maya. So that is things going well for you, balancing out the things that went bad for you, essentially, which is a nice narrative mechanic.
Okay.
The Maya that I have chosen is your elegance evaporates, leaving you clumsy.
You know,
Yes.
Yes.
So the one
I would have predicted that, looking at the two there. That's the one I would have expected you to go for if you didn't come up with one of your own.
and the one I have gone for my Kyra background is Sparks and Jolts course through your extremities.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh,
So
very
when
much.
suffering from that particular Maya, you're effectively constantly being tasered.
Yeah.
I went with the world away from the waves is quiet and distant. Basically, I suffer from depression when not on the
to all intents
Wildsea.
and purposes. Melancholia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do
So
the
that
rest.
should be everything dealt with from your bloodline.
Yep.
And the next thing we have is origin. So the bloodline is obviously effectively your species or your race. Origin is where you come from, essentially. So there are a number of these, and sometimes it can be a little awkward figuring out how they're supposed to apply. But for the most part, I have found that with a little imagination, you can indeed get any of the origins for any of the bloodlines. It might take a little bit more work than you initially think. So, for example, Amberclad. The Amberclad are those who were caught during the Wildsea, and as essentially they're Captain America. They have been trapped in sleep within the creosote sap, hardened into amber, and have recently been released somehow, found by accident and broken free and returned to life. So it's very much Captain America coming out of the ice.
Yeah, it's Captain America used to breed new dinosaurs.
Now, Now the first thought is, well, that can only really apply then, surely, to humans from Wildsea. But no, you can make it work for any of them. All of them have some option that stretches back that far, and you don't necessarily have to have been trapped at the point of the Wildsea. It could have happened sometime since, so you can still make that work for any of them. The thing that the primary feature, I think, of Amberclad, to my mind, is the idea of that disconnect from the world that they knew. However long they've been there, they have vague memories of what things used to be like, and they don't know the world as it is now. So they're very much an amnesiac origin and a journey of discovery. The Anchored is an obvious origin for example, an Ironbound.
Yeah.
The anchored are tangible physical presences on the waves, despite being, by almost all definitions, very much dead. These souls are given substance by their anchor, a single physical object that was left at the surface when their body fell. It might be a memento, a favoured weapon, a chart pointing the way home. Whatever it is, it was enough of a tether to keep them from passing over and to confer a level of impressive material control. So in the case of an ironbound anchor, for example, that would pretty much be the core element of their new body, would be whatever their anchor was.
It would be
but any of the bloodlines can be an anchored, because any of them can have died and yet remained. These are very much ghosts with some material presence. Ridgebacks are those raised on a mesa or mountaintop island. So this is one of the two most normal origins available in the game. A lot of settlements exist on mountaintops that are the only parts that stick up above the Wildsea. And that's what the Ridgeback is, someone who grew up on one of those islands of rock. The Rootless are those who are wild sailors by birth, essentially. Born on ship, raised on ship, never really known any life that wasn't sailing the Wildsea. Shanklings Shanklings are the third of the most normal ones. I was thinking of Ridgeback and Spitborn, but actually Shanklings are relatively normal as well. They're born and raised in settlements that are built into the tall shanks, which are trees so enormous that they rise up even above the height of the rest of the Wildsea. So there are Ewok-style tree villages, essentially, or even tree cities in some of these tall shanks, and that is where a shankling comes from. And finally, the Spitborn, as you might imagine, is the spit equivalent of a ridgeback. Spits are less permanent. Unlike a mountaintop, a spit actually rests upon the Wildsea and eventually will disappear. Eventually, the trees will cease to support it anymore, and it will crumble back down. Either it'll fall apart, or just as one big thing, collapse down into the deeper depths of the Wildsea. But in the meantime, for the duration of their existence, many spits are settled. There are ports on them. You're starting in a port on such a spit, huge lump of rock, effectively, that has been brought somehow to the surface of the Wildsea, and settlement has been built on it. Dickinson Spit exists on a spit. And that's what the Spitborn are. Those are the people who have grown up on one of these spits. So, do we have ideas as to what origins we are?
There's one I'm surprised. I'm surprised that there isn't an under canopy one, because origin for somebody who particularly because the Ketra exist.
Let me just take a quick look at something. I've got one of the haven't downloaded any later versions, but I've got one of the early playtest versions of Storm and Root, which I backed on Kickstarter. That's the first expansion. That includes submersibles, and therefore more information about the world below. So I'm just wondering whether that might include.
If it does have a new origin, I'd be interested. Otherwise, I will stick with the one that I had in mind for the character anyway, which is Shankling, because it will fit with where he actually grew up, as opposed to where he came from.
We have got some new aspects. We've got a new bloodline. And we've got a submerged origin. Survivors who adapted to the ebb and flow of the sea with the efficiency of the verdant sea itself. Life on the Wildsea is shaped around and by the waves, and the submerged may well be the best examples of this. Their colonies are built below the thrash, the largest thriving within fall shanks the bastionic barks of these toppled giants, protecting them from the usual dangers of the tangle. So, yeah, there is in that book a new origin for those who come from beneath the surface, essentially.
Can I just ask what edges it gives on the quick start kit?
Right. It gives teeth, tides, and veils.
Tides and veils. Okay. Yeah. If you could send me a copy of that, I'd be interested. I don't think it will change my mind, but it'd be interesting to note whether or not the aspects make more sense.
So I will just quickly pop just that element into Discord for you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
This is a book that I have backed on Kickstarter. I will be getting this in both PDF and physical form when it comes out. Bear in mind, this is a playtest version of it that we're using here. It's subject to change. If there are any changes, then we will just apply that as necessary. And one thing that will definitely change, for example, is that there won't be placeholder text in the alternate presentations for the subtitle, which there is at the moment in this version.
Right.
I'm sort of torn between Shankling or Rootless.
Rootless is the other obvious origin for Ironbound in my always known life on a ship, because you used to be one.
No, I've gone with Anchored because I do like that.
Yeah.
It's an obvious combination.
Is.
But any of them can be used. I mean, for example, say you went with a Ridgeback Ironbound, even with your background as a ship, that would simply be in reference to the shipyard where you were originally constructed. That would have influenced your development.
That works for me.
Even while you were still unconscious before you were awakened to thought. Nevertheless, you would have been influenced by those things around you. All works quite nicely.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I may go with Rootless because one of the optional drives, or one of the drive options, is to solve the problems of your family members. And if I'm going to be a mesmer, then that my family members might include the Leviathan egg, and as well as everybody else on here, on the ship. So
that all works very nicely.
I think I might do that.
I'm just buzzing ahead.
Okay, so the origin works much the same way as the Bloodline for purposes of character creation. The quick start kit gives you 3 age choices, which you pick one, another 5 points to spend on skills and languages, another 2 resources, another 1 drive, and another 1 Maya, and also 2 aspects. The aspects are the thing where I think a traditional player would be least likely to chop and change, because they're obviously tied quite firmly to whichever element, Bloodline, Origin, or Post you're using. And it seems it could easily feel like aspects of the things that you shouldn't be pinching from another one. If you want an aspect that is associated with Ironbound, you should be an Ironbound. But if you can justify it, there is no reason not to pick an aspect from somewhere else if you're not happy with the ones that are available. There are some good ones on each of the options, but if there's something else that just feels right for your character, there's no real reason why you shouldn't poach it from one of the other origins.
Oh,
For
it's got
example, despite being anchored, the rootless aspect born to sail would be particularly appropriate for Drutt's character. And you always know true north and ignore cut-on movement-related actions caused by adverse seas or damage to your ship. Now, that's a rootless aspect, not an anchored aspect, but it is just so right for your character that I wouldn't object if you wanted to go for it. At the same time, there are some really good aspects in anchored, and if you're happy with 2 aspects of that, then ignore everything I'm saying helps.
Yeah. I'm going with Tempered Anchor, which is a 5-track.
Yeah.
Your anchor to the world is reinforced against damage and tampering, which just makes sense to me because it's a dirty great block of wood.
Yeah. Yeah, that does work.
And I'm considering Faithful Spirit. Loyal to the grave and beyond. Mark to ignore the effects of an active Maya for the rest of the scene.
Yeah.
But it's that or mortal needs, which means I don't have to eat, drink, or breathe. Which might be more appropriate, to be honest.
Seems like as an Ironbound, you really shouldn't have to anyway.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that says you don't have to.
Okay.
I think it's probably fair to assume that the Ironbound still needs to be fueled in some way. They may not eat the same thing as their organic companions, but they're still going to consume something, and that would not fit you anymore with mortal needs.
I quite like the idea of a faithful spirit who doesn't know who they used to be, but knows that they belong with me.
If you are torn between them, I could make a suggestion in terms of priorities, essentially.
Okay.
That if you pick mortal needs now,
Right.
Faithful Spirit is something to potentially pick up using with the justification being that that spirit comes from one of the other ships in your fleet when you locate it.
Well, that solves that problem.
Finding it, it gives you a narrative way of acquiring a faithful spirit later on is already built into your character background.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I am going to go with the submerged background origin, because I think that has slightly better tilt to for what I want. But I may change an aspect and discuss that with you later, Fishy.
Yeah. Okay. No
but
problem.
Notionally, if I don't, I'm going to go with Howl of the Veil. The echo of this terrible call in your mind dulls natural fear responses. Seeing leviathans and other bestial horrors offers whispers instead of Maya.
Ooh, yes.
I like that.
And then possibly pheromonal nose. You could smell your surroundings as clearly as others see theirs. That's one I might switch up for a different thing. But
okay. I really like Howl of the Veil. That just works so well with this ship. It just gives you a reason to feel comfortable on board the ship, doesn't it?
Yes.
My aspects, I think I'm going to go with Wild Words, 3-track. Mark to remember a rumor or folktale pertinent to your situation, supplied by the Firefly. And then I kind of wanted a lemur. The ring-tailed rabble-rouser, a 4-track companion. A pugnacious lemur companion with a natural curiosity when it comes to the running of a Wildsea vessel. That sounds like that could be fun.
I just have images of it attempting to corral the ferrets up in the rigging.
Ongoing prank fight.
And I just know its standard place would be sitting on your shoulder with attempting to strangle you with its tail.
Oh yes. Yeah, well, it has to hold on somehow. It's just.
Image of a hang gliding ferret, a hang gliding lemur now. Thanks for that.
Yes.
I mean, that said, one of the aspects on Shankling is bark peeling ferret.
Oh.
Keep that one away from me.
Oh.
All right, then. Okay. And, why did I close that? And then this gives me.
Okay. Let's see. I think we're going for Grace as our additional edge. Okay. Delve and Harvest. Okay, that's fine. For the drive, yes, definitely solving the problems of my family members with style. If I solve baffling problems of my family members with style, do I get both drives satisfied?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
I've gone with reconnect with your friends and family.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't like either of those. So I will pick. Although hear the thief call your name is actually, you know what? I will hear the
Going with that one.
Yeah, hear the thief call your name because the mire I have chosen from Submerged is shadows chant your name.
Oh, this is
Interesting.
fine.
Oh yeah.
All perfectly normal.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to find the whispers I'm looking at, and I cannot find the actual list of whispers.
There isn't really an actual list of whispers apart from in the quick start kit. Gives suggested whispers, but whispers are a narrative, so they're
a narrative hook.
It's just one of them doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And
what?
Hang on.
What is the whisper? No sense whatsoever.
Hang on, I've got to fit back to the right page because I went looking.
Anchored, presumably.
Yes, it is. Well, they are. On the resources, Back from Beyond, or Drowned and Not. And it's Drowned and Not. I have not the faintest.
Seem applicable to.
Yeah, I mean, Back from Beyond is the logical one to me.
Yeah,
I mean, Drowned and Not.
And Drowned, but still here.
Yeah.
Is an anchored thing.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to say if a whisper does not speak to you in terms of an interpretation, very much don't take it.
Yeah.
Because to use a whisper in game, you will need to be interpreting that whisper, and maybe something will be suggested by a circumstance. But if you're getting nothing at all to begin with, then it's less likely to be useful to you.
Yeah, I'm going with Back from Beyond. It was Drowned and Not was just really not sure about that one.
I mean, to me, that would suggest like interacting with other spirits or something like that, or
I mean, either one could do that.
Yeah.
In my humble.
So
yeah, and I've gone with my other.
You could always swap it for Dead but Dreaming.
And I've gone with my other resource being a sketch of shadowed paths as a chart.
So from Submerged, I have gone with the Terrapine Scale as salvage and Hot Heavy Air as a whisper. The other whisper on offer was
Fluffy.
Fluffy exclamation mark.
My Maya was
not sure how you use it or where, but I love it.
Yeah, my Maya was just obvious to me. Visions of your past death are difficult to banish.
Difficult to banish. really are creating Marvin the Paranoid Android here, aren't you?
I'm not.
Aggression and visions of your past death.
Well, why do you think she's so depressed? When if she violates her Maya
First
after
million
failing
years
sand
were the
checks effectively.
worst. The second, they were the worst too.
Yeah. She gets
After
to
that,
sit
they went
there.
into a bit of a decline.
Yeah, she gets to sit there and watch fireballs come towards her. I get the traumatic Vietnam flashbacks, basically.
Yes, apparently. So we all have an origin now, do we not?
We do.
Yes.
Yeah. So on to posts, and I think we all have our posts already figured out as to what they're going to be, don't we? We have a navigator, a mesmer, and there were a couple of really good options for.
I like.
Which one are you going?
I'm going with Tempest.
You are going with.
I'm going to go with my first instinct because this is a character I want to play, and I don't know if I'll get a chance to again. But Horizoneer and Screw were both awesome. Horizoneer, although tends to play into what I usually play in other games, as good as it looks. But
it would be lovely to have a Horizoneer on the ship, given this is a pathfinding vessel. But there are still two other characters who might be one.
But Screw and Crash were also really nice ideas. But I think Screw is more appropriate for an engineer type.
I can see that.
Although obviously that didn't put it out of the range. I think I would probably play Screw if I wasn't playing Tempest. But you can also see why the Tempest doesn't necessarily have a fixed what does it do.
No.
So that makes it for like the free floating role.
Oh, that's perfect.
So for those at home who do not necessarily know the game, the Tempest, internalizing the wild power of a storm is no small feat, but it's not impossible. Either through technological application or obscure arcanautic methods, Tempests have managed to embed the essence of lightning within themselves. Holding on to such raw power is difficult even for the most disciplined, and many find themselves the subject of wild moods and sleepless nights as thunder roams their minds. Only the most dedicated Tempests manage to typify that dangerous, deadly calm of thunderheads massing on the horizon. So they are essentially, out of the context of Wildsea, they're lightning mages, really.
Yes.
They're elemental mages. But they're arcanautic in this game, or even mechanical. I mean, you could, for example, create an Ironbound Tempest, who was entirely mechanical and electronic, and with no arcanautic nature at all. The combination of Bloodline Origin and Post gives you so many good options in this game that I honestly have difficulty imagining why anyone would want to use the freeform character creation. I think you can get such good options without it. It's nice that it's there, but I really don't see it being necessary in 99% of cases.
I picked my aspects because they both leapt out at me.
What
as a navigator. In the Firefly's glow, you know the secret paths of the Fireflies. Mark to discover a location without using a chart once per scene.
Nice.
And hull sight. While aboard your ship, you can see as though you had eyes at any point across the outer hull.
Nice.
Oh, yes.
Now that just works for me for an Ironbound. I just,
So the two I have gone for also kind of jumped out. Lightning's Call. You can direct bursts of voltaic energy through your palms or fingers, dealing long-range volt damage.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I can.
So you've effectively now got two lightning throwers on board. You've got one built into the ship, and you've got one standing next to it, going over there.
I do like Storm Stride, marked to float for a brief time, electricity crackling around you as you do, because that's a very cool image. But I think the other one I'm going to go for is Voltomotive Interfacing. You can act as an additional engine for your ship, powering its Powering its bite with your mere presence. Increase your ship's speed rating by 1 when you're aboard.
Yes. Okay, I like that as well. Yeah. So yeah, you've got an Arcanautic, effectively electrically powered vessel already, and it just makes perfect sense for you to be able to pour some extra power into that and give it a little bit of a boost, like walking nitrous oxide.
My Ironbound definitely used to be a battleship because of the edge I've just picked. Grace works.
Yeah.
You're at your best when you're free to move, using superior mobility and unexpected speed to run rings around a problem. Gives you the edge when dodging and balancing, performing acrobatic feats and attacking with lighter weapons. Now, for basically an animated wooden statue, that might sound weird, but I like the idea that she used to be a battleship, a frigate or something nippy.
Corvette or destroyer rather than.
Sorry, I didn't say frigate. Yeah, but yes, a ship designed to be manoeuvrable, and that's just plain. That just carries over.
Indeed.
Okay, and rounding that out for me, the resources I've gone for are a sketch lightning strike chart, a ceramic battery, drive. Avert a disaster by causing another disaster.
Yes, I saw that on there, and I thought, I have this horrible feeling that's going to come into my head, and I was.
And the Maya, I will go for your voice is thunder, impossible to lower from a shield.
Oh yeah, I love that one. Yeah, so much for stealth when that Maya is upon you.
Stop shouting! I can't. Yes.
I'm not.
How are you going, Molly? Have you got aspects and things?
I've got the things, but the aspects are taking a little bit longer. I think I want an uncomfortable understanding, 4-track to burn 1 to clear one of the crewmates' Maya tracks entirely.
That's
sounds nice.
You see why that's burned to do? That's,
yes.
I mean, Maya track can only be 1 or 2 points, but they are hugely significant. Being able to just clear that off, even if it's at the 2-point level, is quite something.
Yes, that sounds like something that would be useful. The others, I don't want auto hypnosis, given that our ship is powered by dreams. So I would like to be able to sleep rather than just meditate. I don't know whether to pick something. I don't know. Do you have any suggestions, Fishy? For the mesmer. Shard of dream-soaked amber is possible, but, which allows you to consume, to experience a thought or memory from a nearby individual. Or a 7-eyed scroll. Sounds fun. 2-track. Eyes are daubed across your body, each of them able to perceive the world in a different way. Marked to gain a specialized form of sight for a brief time, such as the ability to see ghosts, or heat, or magnetism.
Yes, they are both interesting indeed, aren't they?
Yeah.
I must admit, I think in your place I might be tempted with Chameleon Veil. Just because it fits so well with the idea of a Mothman.
That's true. Yeah. But I don't want to give up the uncomfortable understanding. So
yeah, that is definitely a good one.
Yeah. It does kind of make sense because my character is going to not necessarily be a fighter type. So yeah, and as you say, being able to veil the bright colors and the flashiness, and hide essentially that is definitely a good point. I think I'll take that.
I've gone with. I'm a simple soul, apparently. I've got 3 brace now and 3 in delve, and 2 each in wave walk and hack.
Yeah, I
So in
have.
addition to being the navigator, Drut, you are kind of by default in the expeditions role as well,
Yeah.
because you've got that high rating in delve
Yeah.
and in brace for surviving whatever's down there.
And on my resources, I've gone with the Whisper a Spit on the Rise, because that just makes sense to me. A Specimen of Ancient Amber. I've gone with Discover a Great Secret of the Distant Waves as one of my drives, which just makes sense.
Yeah, that does indeed.
And for my last Maya, the waves seem callous and unpredictable. So basically, if I start violating my Mayas, it's going to get complicated.
All of your Mayas are very much psychological.
Oh god, yeah.
Some of them have definite physical manifestations, but yours are very much psychological.
Yep. Well, I am mostly psychological on the grounds that I'm a spirit.
This is true. Yes.
It didn't seem to
You
make
are
sense.
just a psyche
Yeah.
inhabiting a bit of old ship.
Oi. Very nice piece of old ship, thanks. And I snagged a point in old hand.
Yeah, they do say shit happens.
Just on the grounds that what the hell.
Yeah. Signaling always useful because that's how you will obviously communicate with other vessels.
That's why I've got 2 dots in signaling.
I have none, but I have 2 in Hyven.
But you know other people who can signal. And Hyven, I don't think we've mentioned this to the audience.
No.
Hyven is a primarily written, if it's what I'm thinking of, a primarily written ancient language. So that's what secrets from the pre-verdancy are likely to be in.
Yes, which made sense to me since I'm also sort of investigating stuff, both mental and archaic.
Yeah.
Which is where we will cross over actually a bit as well, because my background is going to be to do with will have some elements of that as well. So cool.
Right.
Crossover is always nice.
Yeah.
We like
yes,
because one of the things that I've always disliked about a certain viewpoint that we'll take with Dungeons and Dragons mainly is the idea that each character has its very set role and that each scenario has to make sure that it's got a point for each of those roles to apply. I've never liked that. It feels too forced to me. I prefer that people can all do lots of things and that there's an opportunity for everybody to shine simply because everybody has an opportunity to shine, not because something's been thrown in specifically that needs thief skills.
Yeah. Always have options.
Yeah.
Right. I am starting to fade, Fish.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are pretty much done there. We were going. We would have liked to do some world building to round out, but we've actually done a bit of world building over the course of all 3 of these sessions anyway. So there is some world building has already occurred. The things like the unsetting questions and connections between the characters beyond just being on the ship. Being on the ship is good enough. But if anybody wants to flesh out some connections between the characters, as to how you ended up on the ship, how you knew each other, whether you knew each other before the ship, then obviously you are more than welcome to do that between you, and you have a venue to do that on the Discord channel for this game.
Okay, excellent.
So
do you want us to?
Sorry.
I was just going to ask if you wanted us to send you our character sheets in Discord.
That would be nice. Yes.
Cool.
When I finalise it, I will.
Yes.
Cool. You've got
obviously any further questions? Any further questions that arise between now and actually play, feel free to post them on the Discord or direct message me. It's not like this is the only time I'm ever going to speak to any of you. Similarly, do feel free to give encouragement and suggestions to the other two players, to Alexia and Jasnitz, with regards. Hopefully they will watch this and see what you've created, and it will spark ideas for them.
Don't say spark.
But either way, the three of you have been able to bounce off each other and me when creating their characters, so do please give help to the other two as necessary between sessions. And on Discord, we will sort out, I will give you some hooks and we'll sort out which hook you're going to be investigating first. And that will be where we start when we actually start playing.
Okay. Cool. Excellent. Right.
Thank you, everybody at home, for watching, whether you are here now. I did actually have the chat open a while ago, but then I accidentally closed it. So there it is, it's back. Thank you, whether you're watching now or watching on VOD. Thank you for watching. I hope that what we have created here is intriguing you as much as it is me, and I look forward to us actually starting the game. Your channel, so anything you want to say at the end of the day?
I would like to thank you very much for running us through this, Fish. I'm looking forward to playing Wildsea, and I'm going to keep it fairly short and sweet. If you'd like to support the channel, you can at ko-fi.com/Drottercup. It helps. It really helps. I'm just going to stick with that. Also being an affiliate, if you happen to have any Amazon Prime subscription, which gives you a Twitch Prime subscription, and it's going spare 1 month, that would be a lovely gesture on your part to send it my way. Right, as of the rest of the week...
One last thing I would actually like to say that I didn't yet. I would just like to give thanks additionally to Felix Isaacs and Little for providing us with this wonderfully intriguing game.
Yes, and I'm liking a lot of it. Quino, you have events this week.
I do. Yes, tomorrow at 7 p.m. BST, I am kicking off my 2-year stream anniversary and pre-birthday celebrations with some Among Us with friends, followed by community Jackbox party games for folks who want to get involved with that. So yeah, tune in and come over for that. Let's have a good time.
Okay. So thank you very much, and we will see you on the Hint_Plays channel at the weekend, where Moliere will be running Part-Time Gods. And then on Sunday, it should be Deeper Dreams. So, thank you very much, and I am going to play us out, and we will be back with Wildsea as soon as we can. Bye-bye.
Take care all.